Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 75, where my opponent opened with e4 and I played the center counter defense. So let's check it out. This is an unusual line in the center counter. The normal move here is e takes d5. And what my opponent plays instead is just pushing ahead with e5. So you can see it's hardly in the database at all. The way I responded looks like one of the normal responses with c5. Other possibilities are bishop f5 and just e6. Yeah, I was debating in the game whether to get the bishop out first or play e6 first. I played knight c6 there, knight f3, and then I played bishop g4. And there's no games. I guess this this part of the database was populated, but there weren't any games as an example. And then after this, we're out of the book. But I looked at this with the engine, and it thinks black is doing fine here. Basically, he's already pretty much equal. So if you get into center counter and a guy plays this strange move e4, e5 instead of taking, now you know this is one way to play it. Just follow up with a c5 and a bishop move, and then maybe e6 and knight c6. So the game goes along pretty much even, maybe slightly better for black along here, until this move here. Yeah, after I defend the bishop with the pawn and he plays knight g5, and I move the queen here, I'm basically offering a pawn sack. And so I looked at this with the engine, and the engine says, well, if he plays, just put it on the board. It rates this as about even, so that means that black has compensation for the pawn. The idea the computer has here is to follow up with knight f4 and knight f5 and bishop to e7. And I think later on I would castle queenside, double on the h-file here, and just try and get some kingside attack going. So I guess this is fine for black. But he decided not to take my pawn sacrifice. Instead, he played the move knight a3. So computer thinks black is slightly better along here, but it thinks this move here, f6. Thinks f6 is a mistake. And so I left the engine off so you can have a chance to take a look at this. And you're white. Black just played f6, attacking your knight. So what do you think the best move is here? It's not a single simple tactic. It's more like sequence of moves. So anyway, this is a good position to exercise your chess brain on if you want to pause the video and consider this for a while. Just find what you think is the best line for white starting from this position. Okay, if you want more time, pause the video. I'm going to give the answer away. The computer recommends knight b5. So he's just ignoring the fact that the knight is under attack. And if I take the knight, which is probably the best move, then knight here check, and the king only has one move, and I assume I don't want to sacrifice the queen, and then knight here check, and after the king moves, he can grab this pawn, there's no direct. Oh, he can grab the knight. Yeah, I mean he can grab the rook in the corner. So maybe that's the idea. Winning the rook is the computer line. So I would have been pretty interesting. I don't know if I would have spotted that even in a slow game. So that's a little bit tricky. So you're here, knight b5, take the knight, knight here check. I guess you can tell knight b5 to here is a threat. And then follow up with a check here, and you can grab the rook in the corner. Okay, so that would be winning the exchange, although it's not clear if that knight is going to make it out of there alive. So it might be just two knights for a rook. So even if I had seen that, I wouldn't be able to tell from looking at it if that's actually a good line. But the computer thinks that's the best way to play at that point. So thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, he just took the pawn, a logical move, and I take back. And now he plays knight f3, retreating the knight. I castle queenside. And he gets a little bit adventurous with his knight b5 move, but now it's not so good because without the pawn on e5 there to support this knight to d6, the knight just doesn't have a future here. This pawn is well protected by my knight, and I could even move my king over and defend it if I need to. So he's just not accomplishing a lot for him. And at this point, let's see, move 16, yeah, right around here. It thinks instead of this push through the center, I had a better plan here. So, well, it had a couple different ideas. And if you want to take a minute to take a look at this position, try and figure out what you would play as black here. It's another complicated and interesting position. I guess you might think of this as a simple tactic. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. Pause the video if you want more time to think about it. The computer recommended knight g6 here. And what this is doing is it's forking these two pawns. And it also recommended the move a6. So I think it was saying play a6 or knight g6 in either order. And this a6 move pretty much forces the knight back to a3. It just doesn't have good squares to go to. And you know, black's pieces are all well and centrally located. He has a lot of space. And so he's just winning this positionally, and then also he's going to pick up some material here on the king side. So that would be a good move. I just pushed through in the center with the move d4, kind of a simple plan. He went ahead with a5, not the best move, and then I play a6. And now here he really should retreat the knight. But anyway, he decided to go for a more adventurous continuation here, and from here on out, black is just winning because he's picking up a whole piece. But you still have to be careful. In fact, it's a bit tricky if he can open up some lines here on the king side. It could get dangerous. His queen is ready to jump in, and his rook is not too far away. He just needs to get this bishop out of the way. The bishop on c1 is interfering with his pieces coming over to the a file. But it's not so easy for him to do that in this position. If he pushes the pawn ahead immediately to try and open up the a file, I can push ahead with the b pawn. So that was the key. I had to think about that before taking the knight. And now when he takes the pawn, I have to come up with some idea here too. He still has the idea of trebling on the a file and pushing ahead, and now I can't play b6 anymore to keep it closed. I have to just sit there and wait for him to take the pawn, and then he does get an open a file. So I have to keep him busy, and I do so by opening up this d file line myself. And if I can grab some more material here, he pushes ahead and gives up another. Oh no, that's just a trade, but he lets me trade off a piece, so I'm staying a piece up, and I'm just trying to reduce his attacking force. He naturally avoids the trade there, and I'm just bringing in more material. So basically, you know, I try to keep him occupied so he doesn't have time to organize this a-file attack. And it's succeeding so far. During the game I was wondering, oops, I lost it there. At this point here, I was wondering if I even needed to take on b7, because rook checks, my king can actually go to the square c7, and I have enough force to prevent this pawn from becoming a queen with two rooks and a knight guarding the b8 square. And so I checked that with the computer, and it said yes, indeed, the best move here is bishop to e3, just continuing with this attack and not even bothering with that pawn. So, but I took the pawn just to be safe, and he traded bishops, and now I'm threatening with the knight and the rook on g2, and there's also a knight to h3 check. So this was the best move according to the computer, but and black was just winning, and this reply, rook takes g2, was also top choice of the chess engine. And then queen e2. This was not the top choice. The computer recommended the move queen to f4, threatening mate over here, and it gave a complicated line that leaves to mate in 11 moves or something. But this is probably good enough. Queen e2 threatens a mate in 2 and forces a trade of queens. He declined the trade of queens, so now I have the mate in 2. And this is kind of an instructive moment. You can imagine that if the queen were on this square g2, then that's checkmate. And also he doesn't have any pieces defending that square. So all you have to do is move this rook away with tempo. You don't need that rook at all. So rook to h2 check. You can just let him take that rook. It doesn't matter because you've got queen g2 mate coming no matter what. And of course if he moves his king instead of taking the rook, you still have queen g2 mate. So he resigned at this point, and that truly was game over. Anyway, leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.